Welcome to How to Be a Person, a podcast about life with me, your host, Giuliano Grimaudo. And thanks so much for joining me today. How you doing?
Good, Juliana. Thank you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing really well. I'm excited to get to know you a little bit and to chat. So, yeah, tell me a little bit about yourself.
So the short version is that most of my work centers around helping people who've lost themselves, whether through a long marriage, burnout, sort of empty
Mm,
nester syndrome, life changes,
mm,
or just the slow erosion of self that happens over time. I spent 22 years in a psychologically abusive marriage,
mm.
and came out on the other side asking myself the same question a lot of people do, the existential question of who am I
Who am
really
I?
under all of this? And from that, it's, there's lots of stories. Stories. Sorry about that.
No worries.
I actually just got that landline. It's never rung before. I didn't even know what was ringing.
No problem. Yeah,
Um,
I know. I saw your face. I'm like, wow, she must not, like, did someone leave their phone at her house? That's so
exactly.
funny.
What
So
is
funny.
that?
No, it's okay. It's a
Uh,
little bit of comic relief too, because I know we're talking about something a little bit serious. I am really interested to talk more because um, I feel like I didn't really understand that concept of like losing yourself. There's two things. So first of all, I came from, like, I was raised in a high control religion, and I felt like I almost never had myself in the first place. And when I left, then I went through this process of finding myself. But I didn't understand the concept of losing yourself in the first place. But I know people who, yeah, I think without getting too specific, there's people that I know who their situation, I go, whoa, that's kind of crazy how you see the person be like they fade away from who they were before into this person that they think they're supposed to be, or they're like just really trying to somehow enjoy this situation, even though they don't, or something. Like I said, I'm being vague on purpose because I'm not trying to out anybody, but yeah, so I'm interested to hear more. When you said that, you said you were, how long were you married for?
22 years, and now the phone is going beep 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 beep. So
That's okay. I don't even hear it, so
some
you're
more
good.
comic relief.
Okay.
Quickly, while I get this thing to shut up. Sorry about that.
You're like, I'm just gonna
Sometimes
pull it right out the wall.
that's particularly frustrating. But anyways,
It's okay.
um, so yes, I was in the marriage for 22 years. It was to a woman,
Okay.
and I thought we had a good relationship because we never fought. What
Mm,
I didn't realize uh, at the time was we never fought because I never disagreed. I had
mm,
been basically trained that disagreeing meant I was stupid, and it wasn't through. There was no overt violence.
mm,
It's the slow and steady chip, 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 chip. I still every day things become apparent. I had a friend over here plunging my toilet. I'm I just bought my first house that I've ever owned by myself.
nice.
All
Congrats.
the other homes I've owned with her. And he was plunging my toilet, and I said, "Oh, add some toilet paper in there to really see how it gets clogged up." And he put in a Kleenex, and I'm like, "Oh, don't do that. That's terrible. That'll clog the toilet." He's like, "I worked in a paper factory. This is not gonna." But my ex, she controlled everything,
Mm,
including what kind of toilet paper I could put down the toilet.
mm,
So it's that kind of thing. I was taught how to pick an avocado, how to clean a cutting board. I remember texting photos from the toothpaste aisle. Which brand and which flavor should I get? Because I knew if I came home with the wrong one, I'd
mm.
get the sort of
I
thing.
see.
And that
I
sounds
see.
like nothing. The problem is when people haven't been psychologically abused, which God love
Yeah.
them, it's hard to understand that that's abuse,
Mm,
but it's the constant, just never ending, everything you do, every part of your life, you're doing
mm,
wrong. It's blaming, it's, gaslighting. I didn't even know what that was until I started
Yeah.
figuring it out. So, anyways, it's
I have a question.
yep.
Do you think that she knew what she was doing, or do you think that it was the psychological abuse was just a byproduct of who she was being?
I ask
I'm not claiming that. I'm just wondering.
I ask myself that question every day.
Mm,
Did she know?
yeah.
Was it like intentional? Um, I honestly don't know the
Yeah.
answer. I
Yeah, that's
really don't.
okay. You know, to be
Yeah.
honest, I don't know if you have to know the answer. I've, well, I've come to a point in my life that I've realized, you know, there's some things you might never know, and that's okay, right? It's okay if you don't, you know the answer. I was curious because, um, yeah, I mean, I have kind of a long story myself, but I was married when I was really young, and I look back and even some of the things you're describing, I'm like, I definitely was like that with her. You know what I mean? And I wouldn't say it was like pervasive to the point of every single thing, but like I can understand how on the receiving end of that, that that would be considered abusive, especially if it's repeated consistently over time. And I'm not saying that from a perspective, oh, it's so, you know, I did it, so it's not a big deal. I don't mean that. What I mean is that I think that that was what prompted me to ask you that question, because I'm not like that. I'm married again, and I'm definitely not like that now. And I think back to that time, and it was like that wasn't on purpose for sure. But I could see how that would, you know, still be considered abusive to the person, you know.
So the fact that you have that awareness and that reflection means that you aren't like her,
Yeah.
because yeah. Um, I mean, there are times when I've been controlling. I've never been mean though, and she could actually be mean.
Mm,
But, it's not like I'm free of all of those behaviors. It's
mm,
whether it's pervasive and consistent
yeah.
and nonstop.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, maybe those behaviors weren't great. You were young, you were dumb, whatever.
Sure.
But,
Yeah. No, I mean, honestly,
um,
that's part of it. It's just like
yeah,
young and inexperienced, and you think,
yeah.
yeah, you think you know what you're doing, and you don't. So, one of the things I'm curious of is like, now that you're not in this relationship, what is it specifically that you do with other people? How do you help them?
Yeah. So, my main goal is to help people understand that they are the only person who knows their truth
Mm,
and to help them hear their truth.
mm,
So, really, everything I do, and there's two sort of businesses that are related but not the same.
okay.
And one of them, the book is the real foundation. So there's Paramour Paradox. That's an ecosystem that is really, it's my mission. It's my passion project. And I didn't know this until I started hearing my voice of my true self.
Mm,
Um, but that starts with a book that I just got released on Amazon this week,
nice.
called Be the You That's More You Than You've Ever Been. I could talk about that book and why it's structured the way it is for hours, so be careful about what you
Oh,
ask
I would
me.
love to talk about that. That sounds
um,
amazing.
so there's that book. The quickie teaser about it is I
Okay.
actually wrote it in 1999,
Whoa.
but it didn't get revisited until 2024, 2025. So
Wow.
there's the teaser to that. And in between there was my marriage, right? Okay.
Interesting.
So, through
That's
the
crazy though. That's
yeah,
kind of nuts that you
yeah.
wrote this book. I mean, because that sounds like part of what the problem was, right? Like that you weren't able to be yourself. And wow, that's kind of crazy to me.
Oh, I
Are you
know.
saying that you started it back then, or you like mostly wrote it?
Well, I wrote it. Now I've completely rewritten it,
Okay.
but the concept was the same.
Okay.
So
Okay.
when so I'll come back to that.
Okay.
So
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. That's
Paramour
fine. We can come back
Paradox
to it.
is an ecosystem. That's the book, a journal, which is not just a casual journal. It's a very structured journal that is not yet finished because it's very intentional. The journal, some T-shirts, which again sounds weird and off, you know, in La La Land, but it's actually very related. And again, I
Okay.
talk about
Okay.
that for a while. Um, a course which won't be started till next year, and an app that is almost done, and a community called the Murmuration.
Okay.
Um, and that is my mission, my passion project. And it's about people answering the question, who am I? Peeling off all those mask layers and coming home to themselves. And the
Mm,
idea is, I'm not the expert in you. I've done this for myself. I know what works.
mm,
I can give you tools to help you hear your truth, but the only person who knows the answer to you is you. And
mm.
that's really the whole purpose of that whole ecosystem.
Okay.
The other part of my world is Destination True You 2.0, which is divorce coaching. I'm a certified divorce coach.
Mm,
And originally, and again, divorce coaching could be another multi-hour topic, but I think a lot of people hear divorce coach, and because it's not really a known profession, I didn't even know it existed when I was going through my divorce. Um, I think the assumption is it's like a couples therapy kind of thing, and it's
mm,
not at all. It's you work with one person. It's not therapy. It's not legal. It's not financial. It's asking people questions to help them hear their truth about
mm.
what are their priorities, what are their needs, you know, what do they want for the kids, what do they want in their bank account, but
And
not me imposing.
is this pre-divorce and divorce is impending, or is this pre-divorce and they haven't decided yet?
So it can be, gosh, I'm thinking things are wrong, do I need to get a divorce?
Mm,
Or I need to get a divorce, but I don't even know where to start.
I see.
Or I'm in the middle of litigation and it's going to hell.
Yeah.
Or I just finished divorce and I don't know who I am. I don't know how to put the pieces back together. So
Mm.
yes, it's all of that.
So it's the whole spectrum. It's
Yeah.
somebody still trying to decide, but also somebody who already has decided and somebody who's already passed it, all of that.
Yep.
Interesting.
But the
Interesting.
common thread through all of that is, I'm not the expert in you, but I can teach you how to be the expert in you. And that's
Mm.
really kind of my mission.
Yeah. So when you talk about like listening to your true self, what is, I think I can gather what that means, but especially for anyone listening, like what does that mean?
So before we came into this world as a little baby, um, we were us. And then as we popped out in the world, everybody had ideas and thoughts and suggestions. And um, we learn to adapt. We learn to adapt to circumstance and, to environment. And
Mm.
we started listening to everybody else's idea about us, or wants from us, or needs from us. Those of us who are people pleasers completely ignored who they were as time went on
Mm.
and became more and more covered. So it's really hard to hear your truth the older and more complicated your life gets, because of all the internal chaos, all the external voices and noise. So your true self is really the part of you that knows why you're here, what you're meant to do here.
Mm.
And, I have an idea of like my spiritual reality, but it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter whether you're Christian or,
Yeah.
yeah, like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Whatever piece of this resonates with you is what's meant for you. But
Yeah.
um, you have some sort of purpose on this planet. Everybody does. And the more of us who can get in touch with our purpose, the better the world will be. And quite frankly, the world could use that right now. Um, and your true self, inner truth, um, whatever you want to call it, is the voice that guides you to your purpose, to your
Mm.
mission, to your
Yeah.
passion.
Yeah. I think I think a lot of people are probably disconnected from that. Just like you said, I think there's some people who maybe are more disconnected than others. I think my own experience is a common one, right? When you're raised in a high control religion, which is something that's going to tell you what you should think and who you should be and what you should want and what you shouldn't want, and all of those things. And like you said, you kind of get to a point where it's no longer, what am I drawn to? What do I feel compelled to do? It's everything goes through the filter of like, should I want that? Should I do this? Right. And it's like everything goes through that. And until you get to a point where you realize, oh, wait, I can do what I want. What do I want actually?
Yep.
I've had that conversation with a lot of people, and it's, I say that from my own experience, but I think everyone deals with that to a certain extent, right? You don't have to have gone through something crazy in order to be in that place. I think
Yeah.
most people are, simply because of like the way society is structured, right? Like you at like a lot of people from a very young age, their mother goes back to work and someone babysitting them, or they go to daycare, and then they're in school, and even your parents, right, they're telling you what you should do or what you shouldn't do. And the way that school is structured, like the very first thing they teach you in school is how to listen, right, how to like do what you're told. And and like everything is like that, like everything is that way, right? Like if you want to operate in the world, you have to follow
Advertising,
these rules.
right?
Yeah.
Advertising, marketing.
Oh, a
Yeah.
hundred percent, a
Everything.
hundred
Yeah.
percent. So I think what you're doing is really important. Can you tell me a little bit more about it?
Yes. And before I do that, I want to pick up on a word that you threw out there, and that was the word
Okay.
filter.
Mm,
Um, so, yeah, we, I'm going to put this out there to your listeners, and some people will get it and some people don't. And actually,
sure.
that's the other thing. You started off by saying some people are more detached from their true self than others. I mean, there's people that are like, true self, what's that?
Yeah.
I'll say that to my father,
Yeah.
for example, and he'll be like, true self, huh?
Yeah.
So yeah, there's different, you know, degrees of separation, I guess. But the word filter, I think, is particularly relevant and important because we filter to create our reality. Now, we have to filter because without the filter, we would be overwhelmed and bombarded and not be able to function in this
Yeah.
world. But everything you see, everything you hear, everything you smell, everything you taste, everything you feel, everything is filtered. People's words to you get filtered and put into a
Mm,
context that is not real,
mm,
right?
yeah.
Um, I actually have some, I call them mind expanding experiences, me squared, that are audios that I'm going to give to your listeners for free. But
Oh, awesome.
yeah, it's 4 audios, and they're really designed to help you um, lift that filter so you can decide what you want. You have to have a filter to function. You have to.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you're in control of that filter once you're
Yeah.
aware that the filter exists.
Yeah. Exactly.
And so that's what those are for. So you asked me what I do. Is that what you asked me?
Yeah. I'm curious to know a little bit more about like how you help people to like hear their true selves. Cause it's actually really funny. Everything you were describing before, even just the title of your book, when my wife hears this, she's going to laugh, because that's exactly like, where that's like the journey that I've been on for the last like 5 years. And I'm like a huge proponent of that it's like, I'm realizing over time, the more you that you are, the happier, more fulfilled, more money, more impact, all of those things. Like it's just the more you that you are. And which seems like such a weird, it's kind of like you said, some people are like, what are you talking about? Like that sounds weird. But like once you start to embrace and like you shed those, those things that part of the filter that everyone told you, like who you're supposed to be, what you're supposed to want, and you start exploring like who you actually are, and like what you are specifically drawn to, and what excites you and what lights you up. When you realize those things, and again also your natural strengths, like which are you're totally blind to, until until someone goes, wait, that's crazy, that's so hard, and you're like, oh, that's just like second nature to me, right? Anyway, once you identify all those things and truly like lean into them, it's like it's crazy how much different your life can feel after that.
Your reality, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So to parlay off of that, one thing that I've really um, observed over the last couple of months that is fascinating about this connection to truth, to your truth, to your true self, is that a lot of people struggle with motivation and discipline. Um, Once you are living in alignment with your true self, you don't need that.
There's
I
no
mean,
such
it's
thing.
there.
Yeah.
No, like I
Yeah.
wake up at 6 and go, "Oh my God, I can't wait to get in front of my computer or make these calls or talk to these
Yeah.
people or write this section."
Yeah.
And I'm usually up until like 11 working, but I don't watch TV, not because I have any judgment against TV, but I just have so much other stuff I'd rather do than watch TV. And so,
Yeah.
um, there's been a couple of days where I've come home and been like, okay, I wish I had a TV. I don't have a TV. I wish I had a TV and a cocktail. I don't drink. So it's like, there's certainly, moments where I wish I had that ability to indulge in those things. But for the most part, I'm just so impassioned by what I'm doing that I don't
Mm.
need discipline. I don't need motivation. And that is,
Man, yeah. No,
yeah,
I love that. I love that. I've been saying that for years at this point where I'm just like, man, when you're, and it's not again, it's not like a judgment or anything like that. But when someone tells me that they're struggling to get themselves to do something, I'm just like, well, that's clearly out of alignment for you because
yeah,
if
exactly.
you don't need it, you don't need discipline, you don't need motivation when you're operating in alignment. Because those things just, I mean, it's like you can clearly explain this to someone when you ask them about like when you're going on vacation, right? Like, people always talk about like, oh, you vacation the next day, it's so hard to get to sleep, right? And then you wake up in the morning and you wake up before your alarm and you jump out of bed and you're ready to go. It's like, did you need
Right,
motivation to do that? Did you need
right,
discipline to do that? Like, no, you didn't, right?
right.
It's like, yeah, I can't believe it. It was just so easy for me. You're like, okay, that's exactly what it is. Like when you are in alignment, it doesn't, you don't have to, you don't feel like you're dragging yourself through your life. You just feel like you're flowing through it easily.
Yep. In fact, I don't even set my alarm unless I absolutely have to get up for something specific.
Yep.
And I'm still usually awake in the 6 o'clock hour, um, because I'm excited,
Yep.
It's like,
Yep.
and I get a good solid sleep. It's not like I'm tossing and turning all night. I get my 6, 7, 8 hours, whatever it is my body needs that night. And then I wake up and I get up and go. So, yeah, which is very different than I've lived my life in the past. So I am not by any means saying I've arrived or I'm perfect or I've always been this way. Quite the contrary.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I am celebrating that I'm here now because
Oh,
it's awesome.
absolutely.
It's awesome.
Absolutely. It's, man, I feel like the more you talk, the more I'm like, I don't set an alarm either. I do the same thing. I just go to bed at the time I'm supposed to go to bed and I wake up at the time I'm supposed to wake up.
Yep.
Oh, that's so funny. One thing I want to go back to is kind of what we were talking about kind of near the beginning. That you were saying that specifically, right? You help people who feel like they've kind of lost themselves. Um, how do you, what do you think it is that where people end up there? I say this because for me, like I told you, I never had myself in my opinion, right? Like if I, as long as I'm not taking any responsibility for my childhood, right? Which I don't think I should. It's like, I don't think I ever was 100% me, right? I just was raised this way. And then I got to a point where I was like, oh, and I'm like finding myself and discovering myself. So I've never gotten to the point where I felt like I was me and then lost myself. I'm curious to know like what you think, like how it is that people end up in that situation, and maybe somebody listening, can resonate with it.
Yeah, it's really funny the way you talk about that. So I believe, and again, I don't impose this on anybody
Sure,
else, but I'm
sure,
just sharing where I'm at. I
yeah,
believe that we came to this reality, this existence, with a requirement that that we forget who we really are, and that
mm,
our whole point of being here is to remember.
interesting,
And so I don't think it's any of our faults that we don't know
mm,
who we are. That's the whole point, kind
okay,
of,
sure,
is to remember.
Interesting. So, but part of right, like when we were talking earlier, when you said that you help people, you feel like you said that you've helped people who feel like they've lost themselves, correct?
Mhm.
So how do they end up in that situation?
Like more lost than just lost.
Yeah.
Um,
More
yeah,
lost than just the what you
yeah,
described as like you come
yeah,
here not knowing who you are.
yeah. So it usually comes from accepting the roles, conditions, circumstances, environments,
Mm,
instructions that were given, either because they're like forced on us and we're fearful if we don't,
mm,
or we have a natural inclination to want to please. And if you're pleasing somebody else, it's probably not 100% in alignment with you. That doesn't mean you
yeah.
shouldn't please other people at all. That's absolutely not what I'm saying. Um, but what I am saying is if you're always pleasing other people, or at least one person in particular, you're not tuned in to your own needs. And so the more that happens, the more, again, layers and the more separated we get
Mm,
from ourselves. If you go to the Paramour Paradox website, the hero image, the top image that you come to, is a video of a chameleon with his little eyeball moving around. And the reason I liked that video for my homepage is because it does a couple things. One is it harkens back to the idea of uh, becoming invisible, and to do that we've just put all these masks and layers and things
mm,
on ourselves to kind of blend in and not be seen and not make waves and satisfy others. And I like the eyeball moving, and I have it as a video instead of a photo intentional because the chameleon is watching, and the chameleon knows what you're doing. And so it's time for you to like see yourself, and wake up to that yourself. So
mm,
you ask the question of why does that happen or how does that happen? Um, and it happens to everybody. And I don't
yeah.
even think it's like some people it happens more to than others. No, I think it happens to all of us pretty equally.
Yeah.
Um, I don't think there's necessarily like a deeper thickness to that pile that is, that we're hidden under. I think some of us can peel it off quicker than others,
Mm,
but I don't think anybody is free of that camouflage,
yeah.
masks.
Well, what you said before like really resonated with me. I totally agree with you. I think that like I don't know, there's a lot of I mean, okay, if someone said like what do you think the purpose of life is to me like is it's learning, okay? But also like for me like one of my like a really important value for me is curiosity, which of course leads to learning. But if I had to describe what my journey was through life, it would be like discovering more about myself. Like that is what in my opinion, like that is what the journey of life is like over time discovering more about yourself. And what you said about like us coming here and like not knowing who we are, but like that's the whole point is to remember who you are. It's kind of like, oh, well that fits into that. And it's interesting because when you talk about someone losing themselves, I can imagine that if everyone, even if they're not fully aware of it, but if everyone is kind of on this journey of trying to discover more about themselves, I could see certain things drawing them in as if, oh, maybe this is who I'm supposed to be, right? And kind of like I'm drawing parallels between your experience and some of other people's experience that I've heard, like that. And you can tell me if I'm completely off base, and I might be, but I can imagine, if you're in a situation where someone's constantly correcting you or telling you how to be, that there's almost like I said, if you are consciously or subconsciously on a journey to figure out who you are and someone else is constantly telling you who to be, then that's almost kind of answering that question, right? And so it's like, well, maybe this is who I'm supposed to be, right? Oh, okay, I could do this better. I could do this better. And I'm drawing the parallel between your experience and then other people's who I know who, like, maybe for me, I was raised religious, but some people aren't. And then they all of a sudden are attracted to it and they're being drawn to it. And it seems like, oh, maybe that's what they're thinking in their mind, is that, oh, okay, yeah, maybe this is who I am. Maybe this is who I'm supposed to be. And I'm thinking of a couple other specific scenarios too, but it is, I don't know, it's just kind of interesting thought to explore that if that is the journey that we're on, that's maybe part of the reason why we get pulled into these things where we do end up losing ourselves, because we think maybe that is who I am. And also, I just want to be clear, I'm not invalidating anyone's decisions at all, because I've made some decisions that people would be like, say were a mistake, but I'm like, I'm exactly who I am today because of those decisions. And I'm grateful for everything I learned through those experiences. So I'm not judging those choices that they're making, but I'm just examining, like, well, maybe that's what's, giving them this little downhill slide into that experience.
So you said, you were talking about being drawn to religion or spirituality at a different time, and maybe that's who I'm supposed to be. Also, I did not grow up religious. Like I didn't. That's a whole nother topic, but I did not grow up religious or spiritual or any of that. Um, but my point that I wanted to, or your point that I wanted to draw some attention to was like, oh, so is that what I'm supposed to be? So that the idea of, oh, I'm spiritual, I'm arriving, or that is also a mask, right? It's just a different kind. It just looks a
Mm,
different way, but it's
mm,
still one of those pieces of clothing that we put on to hide behind, right? So, and a lot of times people will ask me, well, how do I know if the voice in my head is my truth, my true self, or not? So, my rule of thumb is if the voice I hear is encouraging and positive and passionate and inspired and optimistic and all of that, it's my true self. If it's critical or doubting or fearful or anything like that, then it's not me. It's not my true self.
mm,
It's somebody else's voice that is, coming through the noise. And it's a weird practice, but I actually talk to myself out loud to be able
mm,
to create that dialogue. It just
mm,
works for me. So, um, and I answer myself out loud immediately without passing it through a filter. So
mm,
it would go, something like this. So, Kristen, what am I supposed to be doing here? What am I supposed to be talking about? Well, you're supposed to be being very authentic, very genuine, vulnerable, truthful. You're being interviewed by a very open host, and you should be sincere. Well, what if I say the wrong thing? What if he judges me or somebody listens, judges me? If they do, that's where they are and that's their thing. But all you can do is control who you are and how you put yourself out there to the world. So that's the kind of dialogue
mm.
that I have. And I have
Yeah.
it, rapid fire. I don't sit there and think about it. It's
Mm.
like I just let it flow. And that way I know this is really me talking.
Interesting. So what I'm curious, because I agree with you with this, like, if you're listening to your true self or not, and if it's positive, then yes. If not, if negative, it's not. But how did you come to that conclusion? Like, why is that the case? That if it's positive, it's you. If it's negative, it's not.
Actually, I have to credit another author with that.
Okay.
An author who brought me home to my 1999 book
Mm.
indirectly. So,
Okay.
the other thing I talk about a lot is ripples, about how one little decision you make affects not just other things in your life, but other people. So, the author, I don't remember her name, but the book is I Am, no. Oh, I can't remember it.
It's okay.
Short little book. It's a YouTube video that's like 2 hours long. It's like a really short. I
Mm.
create. I don't know. I can tell you later if it comes to me. But
Sure.
anyways, she I think is the one that I got that from. That if it's positive, then it's your truth. I think that's where I got it from. And if it's negative,
Yeah.
then it's just an inner critic, some other voice coming at you.
Mm. I'm curious why you believe that. As I believe it too, but I'm curious why.
It makes sense. It feels right. I mean, why would my inner truth beat me up? Like,
Mm.
that doesn't make any sense, you know?
Yeah. 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 I think there's a lot of, how can I describe this? I think right now there's a lot of people who are very secular in their thinking. And through that, I think it's easy to just be like, well, there's no such thing as higher self. Like it's just you, right? And you have positive thoughts and you have negative thoughts. And like, fine if you want to listen to the positive thoughts, but negative ones, whatever. That's just part of being alive. And there's no actual path you're supposed to follow. You're just supposed to live. Um, I'm curious, like, what your thoughts are about that particular worldview.
So, like I said, we all have filters,
Mm.
right? Um, so, that person, that example's filter, um, has that framework and that's the data that they allow to pass through. Um, I don't have any doubt about that, what I shared around positive, negative, true self,
Yeah.
because it's like I I'm looking up because not because it's up, but there's this awareness that I was able to touch through quieting my mind that confirmed on a visceral somatic level that I am part of a whole. I'm not
Mm.
separate from you. In fact, I'm not separate from this desk. And that was actually something in one of your podcast interviews that I was like, okay, I want to have a conversation with this guy. You said something about atoms and, quantum. I don't
Mm.
know exactly what, but, we are 99.99999% energy and
Mm.
0.00001% matter,
Yeah.
atoms. And so we're more energy than solid.
Yeah.
Again, that filter is what creates this reality the way we are.
Yeah.
But we are not that. And um, it's hard to get your head around that until you really feel it on just, I mean, like I know without doubt that,
Mm.
all this is energy, all this isn't, it's my construct. And I don't know how to explain it other than I've touched it.
Mm. Hey, it's Giuliano. I'm just popping in here to say how much I appreciate you being here listening and that I hope you're enjoying the show. The more support that the show gets, the more episodes can be produced. And if you can only support by sharing or leaving a review, I appreciate that so much. But if you're the type of person who would like to support the show directly, visit howtobeaperson.co and click support the show. Every bit of support means the world to me, and even more so those who do so monthly. No matter what, I appreciate you being here listening. I love what I do, and it's because of people like you who listen to the show that I get to keep doing it. Thanks again so much for being here. All right, back to the episode. Yeah, I think, I heard this described a while back when it comes to like what you believe, that there's this like kind of bell curve where people go from being like super religious to like atheist and then spiritual, and that like that's like this typical curve because um like ultimately like I think this is what I always say this. I feel like it's important to know, like I don't judge anybody for what they believe. Um but like I feel like inevitably you get to a point where you realize, oh man, there has to be more than this. And it's not just because, oh, there has to be. Like, I don't mean it like that, that like this is all there is. I'm not saying it that way. What I mean is that, like, the more you dig deeper, the more you realize how connected we all are. And there's times where things you're just like, that is, what are the chances of that? Like, that is an insane coincidence. And I know that it's not, like, from, like, let's say the traditional definition of God. Okay, I'm like, I know it's not, because I don't believe in that. Right? Like, I'm not praying to God to make any of this stuff happen. And it's happening. So I'm like, so what's the answer here, right? And it just makes you realize, like, you know how you said, you're like, I've touched it. And I think for me, I think of like my own experiences where I'm like, I've had experiences where, I can understand how somebody who views things very secularly might write them off, right? And be like, well, there's an explanation. And you're like, okay, fine. That's fine. That if that's what you want to choose to believe. But for me, I know through my experiences, like, there is more happening here. And I see the way things work out differently when I lean into this idea of there being more, and not just like externally, but like within me, right? Like knowing, like this whole idea of like discovering more about yourself and leaning into those things. It's like, I see my life improving and getting better through leaning into those things. And if that's the case, right, then that means that there is a system that this is all built on. And you can't have a system that's just came from nothing, right? And so it's like, there is something here. I can't pinpoint what it is. I can't tell you. Right? I was just having a conversation with someone else because I was just talking about how I don't believe that anymore, that religion. And they're like, well, so you just believe everything came from nothing? I'm like, well, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I don't know, right? Like, that's just like I was telling you earlier. Like, it's okay. I've kind of come to the conclusion where I'm like, I'm okay not knowing 100% for certain. And that's kind of where I've gotten to, where it's just like, I really don't know. I don't know. But it's exciting to explore it, and it's exciting to, experience it. And to me, that's kind of the point, right? In my mind, I'm like, look, I don't care about being right. I care about enjoying it. Right. And then for me, it's like, if I'm happy, then what's the difference, man? Like, I said this to someone a while back, like, life, the only thing that exists is right now. That's the only thing that exists. Okay. The future hasn't happened yet. Past already did happen, which means that life is just a series of nows, right? It's a series of right now.
Yeah.
And if you are happy and excited and full of energy in 99% of the nows, then, like, doesn't that mean you had a good life? Right? Like, no matter what your circumstances are, if you feel happy and you are excited, regardless of what's happening around you, then that's by definition a good life, because that's all life is just a series of all of these now moments. And anyway, that's all I'm saying. Uh,
I leaned forward to write something down because I have two things I have to
yeah,
say in
please,
response
please.
to what you said. So one is, I have to shout out to Kathy because you brought up, about um, synchronicities, or
Hmm,
whatever coincidences.
sure.
So it was funny. Kathy is a fairly new friend. I've had her for, I don't know, about a year or something as a friend, and I love her because she challenges me, and I challenge her, and it's, we're both you know answering the looking for the same uh, questions to be answered, but
Yeah.
we come from things very differently. So I would have something happen and I would text her, "Can you believe this?" And she would send me back an eye roll. And then she would write, "Oh no, I don't know where that came from." And
Hmm.
then, another time I would so it got to be this inside joke now where we go up to each other and go, "Okay, I have an eye roll experience that I've got to share
Hmm.
with you," which basically just means it's one of those things that's like, "Can you believe that happened?" And of course it happened. It's the path that is opening up
Hmm.
that I'm supposed to be on. So yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, hi Kathy. All right. So in terms
Well,
of,
hold on. Before you go to the
hold
second
on,
thing, I will say,
okay,
like, that's one of the things that I've learned for me, like, is when I see things working out in a way that is unexpected, or there's like some weird synchronicity, like it just is almost like a little breadcrumb being like, you're on the right path, you know?
yep,
Which, again, if you're approaching life with a secular viewpoint, which is totally okay, you could just be like, you're delusional. And I would be
right,
like, okay, that's fine. That's okay. But I'm enjoying this.
right,
Right, I'm having a good experience. Like and it could be little things too. Like there's sometimes I'll be listening to a podcast and someone says some weird word, and I happen, like, in the podcast that I just happen to be listening to while I'm driving, and then I look up and there's a sign that also has that word on it, and it's just an
yep.
obscure word that I never hear, and I'm like, what are the chances I'm hearing this
You're
on
supposed
this
to zap.
podcast at this
Yeah,
exact moment, right when I look up and see the sign?
right,
What? I'm
right.
sorry, but come on, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's
Yeah,
things like that where you're like, how do you explain that? Like, genuinely,
right,
how do you explain it? You can't. You
right.
can't. The chances of that happening are so insanely slim.
Yep.
Sorry, that was just my little comment about
No,
that. The
I could go off on
synchronicities.
that tangent as well about a Kathy story, but anyways, so
Yeah, tell
what
me
did
the
I
other thing.
write down? Oh, series of nows. So yes, so
Mm,
one of the things that I'm really excited about my book, and I'll talk about why this was so exciting for me. So as I mentioned, I started the book in 1990. I wrote the book in 1999.
yeah.
I sent it. That was back in the days where you didn't self-publish. It was like
Mm,
literary agents and all of that.
yeah.
And I had sent it out, and I was 32ish at that point, right? And so I hadn't. I don't know how old you are. You're probably in your 30s, but anyways, you haven't
30,
lived that much.
32-ish.
Okay, so there you go. You
I'm
haven't
just kidding.
lived
I'm a
that
little older
much.
than that, but still close enough.
And the feedback that I got from the literary agent was, this is a great dissertation. And the
Mm,
reason she said that was because I had to quote so many other people because I hadn't lived it yet.
mm,
Right. And so that's why it got filed in my, I'm a digital hoarder. So it got filed in my deep, dark data, database of
mm,
things that I've done. Um, and the when I pulled out the book, the thing that so I pulled out the book. I don't think I said this, but the whole way I came to rediscover my book was I was having a chat with True Self. Hey, what am I supposed to do now? Sitting on my sofa. Um, and True Self said, "Go find your book from 1999." And I was like,
mm.
"Huh? Yeah, go find your book from 1999." I'm like, "Okay." I don't know if I can, but like I said, I'm a digital hoarder. So I dug it out. And the first, I could barely remember what I wrote about. Now, interestingly enough, one of the things that every chapter had was a story I called The Web, which actually now is its own chapter in each of these sections. But the web,
Mm.
and this is before that many people were talking about the web. So I had to be tapped into my greater voice somehow.
Sure, sure.
But the web is, the interconnectivity of everything. How you make one little change and it has ripple effects out into the world. And I actually have one that I can trace for you that's
Mm.
related to this. If you, my cheetah.
Okay.
So if we go back to that, that is related to this ripple effect idea. But so I went to the book. The book has started off with 8 exercises. And so I started doing the exercises and I was like, who wrote these? They're really good. And the more I did them, the more I started to hear, like, get back connected to my truth. The first
Mm.
exercise is called Who Am I? And that has kind of become, and I don't know if I created it, to be honest. I have no idea. There's really no original ideas because we're all the same
Yeah.
and it's all a web. And it's just,
Yeah.
so I'm not claiming my brilliance. I'm claiming the exercise's brilliance that
Sure.
somehow I happen to have access to, right? So,
Yeah.
anyways, I did the first 8 exercises and I thought, okay, so True Self, what do you want me to do with this? Are you looking for me to rewrite it or just to go through the exercises to figure out who I am? Um, and so I kind of did it like as a hobby, and I had another job and then I lost my job. And anyways, that's a whole nother story. So the book is, and this relates back to that. This is short story long. It it goes back to that series of nows.
Yeah.
Eventually, I'll get there.
That's
So
okay.
the book is 5 sections. The first four
Okay.
sections are a body, so emotional, mental body, emotional body, physical body, energy body.
Mm.
Okay, so each section is broken down that way. Within the sections, they all have 3 chapters, the same 3 chapters.
Mm.
Um, for those chapters, it follows the metaphor of archaeologist, artifact, and architect.
Okay.
Well, the theme for the book is those three, that metaphor. So, chapter 1 in each of the sections is a compilation of research and, current science, philosophy, metaphysics, whatever on the topic that relates to the mental body. So, neuroscience, whatever for mental body,
Mm.
right? And I present this to the reader as I'm not the expert. I didn't learn, I don't have a PhD. This is just information that I have read about that makes sense in my journey, take it for what it's worth. And the point of that chapter is I call it the archaeologist of the mental body, for example. And the point of that chapter is to give people the education, the tools, equip them with the credentials, so to speak, to when they do the next chapter, which is the excavation, they can look at a piece of information they got. So, for example, a memory, and they can say, is this memory rubble or is it an artifact?
Mm.
And so the archaeologist chapter gives them that foundation for them to then make that assessment.
Mm.
So as they gather their artifacts, and the excavation chapters are 2 or 3 times longer than the archaeologist, because again, I'm not the expert. My
Yeah.
expertise is in giving them the excavation tools.
Yeah.
So the excavation chapters are about 100 questions and 20 to 30 deep exercises, 20 to 40 deep exercises
Wow.
per body.
Okay.
So it's those questions and exercises that allow you to dig up your artifacts
Mm.
that then enable you to build. And this kind of came up earlier when you were talking, but anyways, it got lost in my brain. But to dig up those artifacts that you can now build your jig with. So a lot of people don't
Mm.
know what a jig is. I didn't actually know. My best friend told me when he was listening to my description of my book. He's like, "Oh, you're building them a jig or helping them build a jig." I'm like, "What's that?"
Okay.
So, for those of you who don't know, when somebody is building something, so for example, a chair, before they build the chair, they build the jig. And the jig is a tool that they use to make sure that every chair leg is the same length, same width, so it'll fit in the hole.
Mm.
And it makes it, uh, what's the word? Consistent and in
Uniform.
alignment. And it also enables the chairs to be built faster
Mm.
because you've got the jig, right?
Yeah.
So these four, and then the third chapter in each of the sections is the web that I alluded to before. So the
Okay.
little fictional story that kind of traces the idea of somebody making, it's a sliding doors. Web one is they
Mm.
don't make any changes. Web two is they make a teeny tiny little change that ripples out into their life, which also ripples out into the world and to other people's lives.
Mm. Okay.
So the first 4 sections are to help people gather up their artifacts. And then the final section, integration, is about building the jig. And the jig is now that you have all your artifacts, you can uncover what are my values, what are my morals, what are my beliefs,
Mm.
what are my passions, what are my desires, what are my dreams. And this jig can then be used to help you make decisions quickly.
Mm.
So when you come upon oh, my boss just offered me this promotion, you can say, okay, is this an alignment? Like you said to me, one of your values is growth, constant growth,
Yeah.
personal growth,
Yeah.
learning, that kind of thing. So when you get presented with an opportunity, that is one of the things in your jig that you can say, okay, is this in alignment with my values? Oh, it's not. Okay, well, that's a no. right?
Mm.
That's easy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're not doubting yourself or questioning yourself.
Yeah.
So about the series of nows, see, I told you I would get there. So the fifth section is integration, and integration um, is about you getting to your true you 2.0 self. So you become the
Mm.
architect of, and the true you 2.0 self is the version of you that your true self wanted you to be in this world, which is why it's true you 2.0.
Mm.
Okay. So a lot of people, when they approach achieving a goal, they, develop a plan. I have to do XYZ. They kind of get a sense of timeline. Okay, so these steps will take me about a year, and then this step will take me this long. And, okay, so 10 years from now, I will achieve that goal, whatever
Yeah.
that goal is, right?
Yeah.
Well, because time is a construct, right? Which you already kind of, I don't know if
Yeah.
you even realized how you were saying that.
Oh,
I
oh,
think,
100%.
yeah.
100%. It's
So
made up. It's not a thing.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So time is a construct. So we don't have to wait 10 years to get there,
Mm.
right? So my integration section talks about time and talks about consciousness and
Mm.
how using, and I put out there, a lot of this isn't necessarily proven,
Hmm.
but it opens up the possibility of what could be.
Yeah.
And my change over the last year and a half has been so radical. And it's because of the possibilities that are in that package of
Mm.
time as a construct and consciousness is all interconnected, right?
Mm.
And so I didn't have to wait 10 years to get here. I was
Mm.
able to get here faster.
Yeah. Well, and what I was thinking of was when you were talking about people making a plan, it's like you're thinking about it in terms of time, right? And like how much time it'll take to accomplish these things. And like this plus this will equal this versus just being the person at the end who
Yep.
has all of those things,
Yep.
which is funny because I will say, I think there's probably also a lot of overlap, right? I'm
Okay.
not saying that there's no
Right.
value to a plan or that there's no work required, but the point is that it's not just about, what am I seeing right here?
A to-do list, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You still
Exactly.
have to, yeah.
Yeah. So there's still work involved and there's still like steps in between, but don't put steps where there don't need to be steps, right? Like focus on being the person who has achieved XYZ thing. And again, it's not just like existing as that person who already has it and like hasn't done anything to get there, right? It's like, well, what does that person do? How do they spend their time? It's kind of like what you said about earlier when you're
Mhm.
like, I don't have a TV because God damn it, I'm excited about other things. Like,
Right.
my wife and I have been asking each other this question lately because I read it somewhere. And what we did when the last time we moved, which was about a year ago, we got rid of all our TVs and we have a projector. But the projector is not always set up. It's like a tabletop projector, and we keep it inside the coffee table in our living room. And when we want to watch TV, it takes maybe 10 seconds, right? You just open it up, stick it on the table, plug it into the wall, and then it works. But like just creating it's just enough friction that we go, do I want to watch TV or was I just about to turn it on because that's the habit I've gotten into of just
Right.
sitting down and watching TV. And we've been, trying to be more intentional about how much time we spend watching TV for a while. And to be fair, I am actually an actor and like
Oh,
I don't know, I've always enjoyed watching TV and movies and stuff like that. And yeah, now I can say because I have an agent and everything. Now I'm like, well, this is official work, even though it's not. But anyway, I'm digressing. My point is just that, like, we've been trying to be more intentional about it, and I read this recently where it was like, are you more interested in the stories of the people on TV or your own story? And I was like,
mm,
oh, damn, like that really hit, I still love watching TV and movies, right? I still do. But asking myself that question really put it in perspective because it's like, yes, I do enjoy doing those things. But also when you're it comes back to what we were talking about before about your life being in alignment. It's like when you are doing things that are in alignment with, in your words, right, your true self, then those things that are like you waste time doing now, you don't even want to do it because you really realize you're wasting time, right? Most of the time, like after you've done it, you're like, God, that was such a waste of time. I can't believe I sat there and scrolled on TikTok for 2 hours, right?
Yep.
But when you are in alignment, it's almost like you get that awareness before you do the thing
Yep.
because you're so
Exactly.
excited about doing the actual thing you want to do that you go, well,
Right.
I don't want to waste an hour watching TV or 2 hours watching TV. I want to go do that thing that I'm so excited about.
Yep. Yeah, sometimes I'll do things and I'll look up, an hour later, not scrolling through Instagram necessarily, but something like that, or
Yeah, exactly.
and I'll be
Yeah.
like, that's an hour I'll never get back. It's like, man,
uh,
what a waste. Yeah.
which is so funny because right, we were just talking about how time is a construct, and
Right.
I will
Right.
say I've gotten more and more to a point in my life where I just absolutely do not judge myself. Like I
Yeah.
can look in those moments and be like, oh, I should have spent that time doing something else. But then I'm also like, but you know what? That was fun. Like I just
Yeah.
enjoyed what I was doing and that was
Yeah.
cool. Like whatever. I
Yeah.
genuinely feel like most people, like the misery of their life is like living outside of this present moment.
Right.
It's worrying about what's going to happen in the future or being obsessed with what already happened.
Yep.
And it's one of those things you're like, dude, it already happened. Like
And
there's
it
no
may not
point
have
in
even
beating yourself
happened.
up.
It may not, because there's some researchers say 40%, some say 60%, but about half of what we remember didn't even happen. So
What?
we're
What do you
living
mean?
so our
Like our
memories are
memory's wrong?
oh yeah, 100%. I can't believe you don't know this.
Wait, like
Wow,
half?
you know so much.
Wait. Half of our memory?
Yes, roughly. I mean, again, 40%, 60%, people say different things. So a really easy way to test this, which is one of the exercises in my book,
Okay.
is for example, tell your wife, okay,
Yeah.
um, we're going to talk about that time at the Patriots football game. I'm saying Patriots because my ex dragged me to all these football games. But we're going to talk about that time at the Patriots football game that guy made us raise our eyebrows. Okay, so I want you to write down your recollection of it, and I'll write down my recollection of it,
Mm,
and then we'll compare them. I guarantee they won't be the same. And that's
you're
partly because I
so
feel
right.
guilty, right?
No, you're so that literally just happened to me, not with my wife, but with another incident where I was talking to someone about what happened and it was like 3 months ago, or maybe it was like 5 or 6 months ago. And I was like, they're like, it was this and then this. I'm like, wait, I thought it was the other way around. I thought this happened and then that. And they're like, no, it was definitely this and then this. And I'm like, that's funny because that's what I would say, that it was definitely this first and then that.
Right,
That's, man, that's so crazy. I never really thought about, because we all just live inside our own heads, right? So unless you go and like compare notes, like in this scenario that I just did with my
yep,
friends, it's like unless you go and compare notes, you don't have anyone telling you like, well, that didn't happen because of
right,
course it happened. Like why you don't? That's how you remember it. So why would you
right.
know any different?
So who's
Wow.
right? Neither one, both of you, right?
And so did it
Neither
even
one and both
happen
of
in the
you.
first place?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, see, what's so funny is it gets into like I'm just saying this is my opinion, and I think it can be a little touchy for people. But I think even like the terrible things that happen to people, because I've been very close to a lot of those experiences, and so I would say that those things also happened to me too, even though I was not the direct recipient of those bad things. Um, I'm being vague on purpose, but my point is that I am not even like I guess my point is that there's a lot of people who let those things define them and affect them in this moment. And I'm like, again, it's like touchy territory because right, we're talking about like what really happened, what didn't happen. And in my mind, I'm like, I'm not saying those things didn't happen, but what I'm saying is that if you continue to let it affect you, then it's like you keep experiencing it over and over again. And I
yeah,
feel like if you are actually able, like truly able to just let it go, you can genuinely just let it go. Like
right.
you don't have to live with the effects of it. And I know, like I said, it's kind of a touchy thing to say because there's a lot of people nowadays who are like, I went through this trauma and I have this disorder now because of it and all of these things. And in my mind, I look back at some of my experiences and I'm like, I should have a lot of disorders at this point, right? But I look at it and I go like, I just live right now, right? Like and I'm not like saying I've rejected those experiences, to be
Mhm.
clear, right? I still
Right.
remember them, and it's not like after I went through those experiences that I rejected the feelings I had afterwards. I'm not saying that this is like stuffing those things down.
Mhm.
If anything, it's the opposite. It's like I let myself fully experience those things and fully experience the feelings that came from those things and then moved on. And
Mhm.
so I can look back on all of these things and I go, oh my gosh, like there's some people when I tell them, they're like, this is insane. Like I would have never guessed you've been through that. And I'm like, yeah, it almost feels like it's a different person because it
Right.
was just such a long time ago.
Well, and it was
And
a different person,
I agree with that. Yes, it was.
right?
It was. And that's what I'm trying to say is that if
Yeah.
you're living right now and all that exists is right now, and that was in the past, then technically it doesn't exist.
Yep.
Right. And the only way it exists is if you continue to experience it, if you continue
Right.
to allow yourself to experience it in your head over and over again.
Yep.
And for me, it's like I said, I'm not, it reminds me of one of the things you said before where you're like, hey, not all this stuff is proven, but like you should consider it because just because
Right.
it's not proven scientifically yet doesn't
Yet.
mean anything. There's so
Yeah.
many things that were just like woo woo before, then all of a sudden it's like established science. I'm trying to remember a
Right.
couple specific ones, but just recently I was like, okay, I could have swore when I first started looking at this that everyone was saying this is weird. And now it's like actual science. Like I'm
Right.
like, it hasn't even been that long. What, you know what I mean?
Right.
So anyway, I'm saying all that to say that like, I do think that exploring the nature of reality and what things possibly could be is
Mhm.
valuable. And I
Yep.
don't think that like that more knowledge or more consideration or more curiosity can be harmful in any way.
Right.
And so for me, because that's, I think, something that a lot of people talk about now. It's like, oh, it's dangerous to say stuff like that. And I'm like, I don't think it's dangerous to be curious. Like that's crazy to me, and to be open. And so like, I think it's worth if people are listening and they're hearing stuff like this, that it's like, maybe, right? I'm not saying you have to agree, but just
Right.
maybe, is it possible? And if,
Right.
if you are dealing with XYZ, is it worth maybe considering that this is a possibility? And I
Right.
think it's worth considering, right? Just
Yeah.
explore it. And maybe it doesn't resonate with you and you go, that was stupid.
Yeah.
Right. But maybe it does end up resonating with you and you're happier because
Yeah.
ultimately, like if someone goes, I went through XYZ, I have this disorder now, blah, 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 blah. Okay. If you consider an alternative route to like what is considered normal and you end up happier because of it,
Yeah.
does it matter?
Yeah.
Does it matter?
No.
Right? Like, does it actually matter? Like, if you are happy, who cares if you like supposedly have this thing or you supposedly went through this terrible experience? Like, does it actually matter if you are happy now? And the answer is no, right? Like, it's what we were talking about before, the series
Yep.
of nows. If you are happy right now and you are happy 99% of the time, who really cares? Who
Right.
cares? And I'm saying this from my own experience too. I've been
Yep.
through some crazy stuff and I'm like, you know what? Who cares? Who
Yep.
cares? Right now I'm happy and I'm alive and have a beautiful life. Like that's what matters.
Yep. And you're right that it's a touchy thing because it's easy to get stuck in our victim story,
Mm.
and to allow that to take over our lives. But
Yeah.
actually, the stuff you were talking about, um, you know, do I want that in my now? That's very much what I talk about in my integration section because I have
Mm.
people go through a process of identifying their valleys. So those some of them are traumas and their peaks. And with the valleys, I don't have them write the story, right? I have them assign it a word and then write like the lesson or what it tells them about them. So, like
Mm.
sexual violation, well, maybe I was trusting, maybe I was, wanting to please, right? Trusting and wanting to please are not bad things.
Mm.
They were used against me. And
Yeah.
for the record, anybody listening, I've been sexually assaulted. I've been raped, at least according to my memory. But no, seriously, I have been.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
according, it's like I don't want to live in that anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Um,
get it.
So even though some part of me has a memory that it happened, and I'm not rejecting that per se, Dr. Joe Dispenza, I think I made reference to his, I don't know. Anyways,
It's okay.
his meditations really changed my initial ability to think I could meditate. But one of the things he says is a memory without an emotional charge is wisdom, which I
Mm.
think it really resonates with me, right?
Oh, that's
Because,
so good.
yeah, so I can remember that,
Because
but,
you're
and
separated
actually,
from it,
right.
right? I think
He
it's
used,
emotion that ties you to stuff
right.
because you can look at the experience objectively instead of being, like you said, emotionally charged by it, and that means you can learn from it.
Yep. And the trauma therapy that I went through, I don't know if I talked about that yet either. I can't remember. But
No, it's
anyways,
okay.
I went through trauma therapy just in when I was 53, so just 4 years ago, 2 years
Okay.
before I left my wife, and that's a whole story too about how that happened. But anyways, I reached out to somebody who did EMDR, which I can't remember what it stands for, but it's a intensive trauma therapy.
So the eye
Um,
movement thing.
yeah, he recommended, he had also just learned something called progressive counting, which is less known. And I haven't done EMDR, I've done progressive counting. I
Mm.
did it as a 8 hour a day for 5 days in a row kind of process. And sometimes it can
Whoa.
be more than that. And sometimes it can be less. It can depend on how quickly you work through the trauma.
Okay.
But the goal of it is to be able to play the memory as a movie without
Mm.
an emotional attachment to it. So you don't forget the memory. It's
Interesting.
like, okay, so that happened, but I'm not triggered by it anymore. I'm not pulled into the story anymore,
Oh,
right? So for me, what
that's
was
interesting.
interesting from that is my biggest trauma. Um, well, you start with your smallest one, which I did, and find whatever. And then when I went to my biggest one, it took me like 7 hours to work through that. But what was phenomenal is to learn that it only took me about 2 hours, still 2 hours, 2 hours to work through what happened to me. The other 5 hours were feeling guilty about not rescuing somebody who was having the same thing happen to them
Whoa.
and that I didn't go save, right?
Interesting.
Yeah. And so um anyways, the that is like a way of getting to that point of a memory without the emotional trigger being wisdom. I can now reflect on
Mm.
that and I can go, okay, well, what that tells me about me is that I really value being able to help other people, and that the fact that I was not able to do that, I was 13. So, why wasn't I able to do that? I was 13.
Mm.
I was in a state of, what is it, fight, flight, freeze. I was in a state of freeze, right? This
Mm.
horrible thing had just happened to me. It was now happening to somebody else. I wasn't in a mental position where I could go, help. And having that ability to look at that, articulate it, remember it, but not have it. If we had had this conversation 5 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to complete the conversation.
Wow.
Um, so yeah. So, anyways, it's
That's
that.
pretty interesting. I'm sure, anybody listening who maybe has been through something could see that that would probably be helpful for them. What's interesting though too is that I'm thinking as you were describing this, I was thinking about my own experiences that I would describe as traumatic. I do remember, like, for years afterward, telling people the story of what happened over and over and over again.
Hmm.
And a lot of people were probably annoyed by it, and other people were probably like, this person is just trauma dumping. But it is interesting, the point of what you were describing, where it's like, well, you can tell the story without emotion behind it. And it was almost like, see, I firmly believe that, like, people who are like angry or just like really wrapped up in the things that happen to them, they seem like the people who are feeling their feelings, but I think it's the opposite. I think they're
Yes.
avoiding it. And for
Yeah.
me, I truly replayed it over and over and over again. Like, I spoke it to people who would listen because I just wanted to tell the story.
Yep.
But I also lived it over and over again in my head and let it happen. Right. I think that's the difference.
Yep.
I can't say for sure, right? But I can speak from my own experience that I'm like, I'm not angry and I'm not affected by those things anymore. I know some people are. And I'm like, what's the difference there? And I think it's they just don't allow themselves to fully feel those feelings. And it's exactly what you said. I think that's kind of the whole point, right? Like when you feel a feeling, it's almost like like if you're putting like if you put like cotton candy in water, how it like dissolves. It's like that's kind of what it is. It's almost like you're just it's the emotion is meant to taste and like it's meant to be experienced. And once you do, it just kind of dissolves and goes away. And I think a lot of people just keep holding it. You know, they're like holding on to all this cotton candy instead of
Yep.
just like let it dissolve. Like go feel it. You know what I mean? Like feel the
Yeah.
feelings, let it dissolve. And I think they keep having these like tiny little tastes of it, right? And they just it's just like you just got to eat it and move on. You know?
Well, so
Yeah.
that's a whole nother topic. I know we're at an hour and 15 minutes, but
Uh,
something else for you and your readers to explore, whoever hasn't explored it.
yeah.
And this is something that resonated with me again with Dr. Joe Dispenza,
Sure.
is the we get addicted to the feeling because we get addicted to the chemicals that are released with that feeling.
Mm.
So if we feel fearful, we're playing that story back over and over and we're feeling fear. Well, that's triggering adrenaline and cortisol. So we actually become
Mm.
junkies
I
to our
see.
past,
Yeah.
truly a
Yeah.
junkie. Where's
Yeah. No,
that
I could
drip?
see that for sure. For sure. And I think that's kind of like, yeah, I feel like my experience was that by doing that, I was, now I can tell this. I mean, I could tell the story over to anybody and not have any emotion about it. And it's
Right.
exactly what you said. It's kind of like you just work through it. But it is interesting to think that, like, for some people, they're doing it. And again, it's probably not even consciously that way. It's just that because they're doing it, they're having that emotional reaction or that chemical reaction. And so they're reliving it.
The only thing I'm going to correct is some people, everybody.
Hmm.
It's the reason if you're replaying, well, regardless of replaying it or not, every emotion you have releases a chemical.
Yeah.
Every emotion.
Yeah.
So if you are replaying something over and over, it's because you're addicted to that chemical.
Uh,
You have to have that chemical. And
yeah.
if you don't get it that way, you'll get it another way.
Hmm.
So, drama queens or kings, people who just keep creating drama in their lives.
Yeah.
It's because, oh, okay, so that source of my drama for my drip dried up. I need cortisol
Hmm.
and adrenaline from somewhere else. Oh, okay, I'll go over here and get it. And again,
Interesting.
I've been there. Okay.
Yeah,
So, like,
yeah, exactly. No
no
judgment.
judgment.
Yeah, no.
I still go there. I will still sometimes catch myself and
Sure.
go, oh, I'm being a junkie right now. Okay.
Yeah. Well, you know
Yeah.
what? You know what that made me think of? Okay. Have you heard of Tony Robbins talk about the six human needs?
Not specifically. Go for it.
So he talks about these six human needs that he says it's kind of funny because they're like polar opposites, right? Like so certainty and uncertainty, significance and connection, and then growth and contribution. He says growth and contribution really aren't opposites, but the first four are like these opposites of each other. And I really resonated with it when he talked about it because it makes sense, right? You have this idea, you want certain things to be the same, right? So that's
Mm-hmm.
certainty. It's like you want certain things to be the same. It's consistent in your life. You want to feel secure, but you also need, uh, you know, um, variety, right? And you want things to be exciting. And like, anyway, I'm bringing all this up because when I learned that, I realized, oh, okay. So sometimes, like, if even if like we don't let's say our life is full of uncertainty, it's like, well, you can manufacture certainty into your life, even if you
Mm-hmm.
don't have it. Like, you could have like your life could be a complete shit show, and it's like you can manufacture certainty into your life, right? By controlling the time you go to bed, the
Right.
time you wake up in the morning, like exercising. All of those things are like ways for you to add certainty into your life when you need it. So anyway, I'm saying this because it made me think of when you were just talking about being addicted to those chemicals. It's like, well, are there healthy ways for you to be able to experience those same emotions and to fill your life with those things instead? And I would say there probably is.
Yeah. Probably. I'm pausing
Probably.
and not answering because I don't know, but
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. No, no, and I think, it's funny when I first learned about the human needs thing and I talked about manufacturing certainty or even uncertainty, right? Um, and wait, what is it? Certainty, uncertainty, significance, and connection, right? That's what he's talking about. Like significance, like you want to feel important, but also, you want to be really connected and you want to experience love with other people, which involves not like, making yourself better than other people or whatever. When I learned about those things and I thought of this concept of, well, you can kind of create those things, even if those are not the circumstances in your life. I could see how some people might be resistant to that idea of like, but you're just creating it. And it's kind of like, well, why not?
Right. Why not?
Right.
Yeah.
If ultimately you're fulfilling your needs, and you're doing it in a way that's like healthy, it's kind of like, well, then who cares?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of my perspective on that too, is like, if someone's experiencing those emotions and that's why they keep reliving those things, it's like, well, what are the chemicals that are being released when you're experiencing that?
Mhm.
And like, are there other healthy things that like cause that same type of chemical release that maybe you could actually enjoy? And maybe it's a
Sure.
certain form of exercise or
I was
something
gonna
like that,
say, yeah,
or
downhill mountain
competition.
biking, and you get the adrenaline
Exactly.
and the cortisol. Yeah,
Exactly.
which is
Exactly.
actually why I think a lot of so I gave up drinking when I realized I needed to get out of my marriage, and
Hmm.
I haven't started drinking again, even though I told myself, well, when the divorce is done, I just wanted to
Hmm.
be sane during the
Sure.
divorce.
Yeah.
When the divorce is done, I'll let myself drink again. Well, I realized that the drinking wasn't really helping me in any way, so I never
Yeah.
did. But my point here is that a lot of times when people give up alcohol, and probably other, narcotics and things like that, but when people give up alcohol, they kind of have to substitute that fix with something else. And
Hmm.
so a lot of times people get really into working out, or
Ah.
really into caffeine, or really into sugar.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so, because you have to like, fill it. So yeah, are there positive things that you can replace those sources for the chemicals from? Yeah, that was a good example that you gave.
Yeah. I never explored this idea before, but I've done a lot of fasting. And I feel like fasting has helped me so much when it comes to like what I even desire to eat in the first
Hmm.
place. It's
Hmm.
kind of shocking. And it makes me wonder how fasting would affect someone's, um, like the chemical, like when we're talking about like your thoughts as well. Because for me, I'm not saying, oh, I don't need any improvement. Of course I do in my thoughts, but I just, when I was doing it, I was thinking about food. And so like I was
Hmm.
paying attention to, my food, but I was thinking how like honestly, like what you eat also has effect on like the chemicals and stuff like that. So it makes me wonder if you go, because the longest I've gone is like 5 days, from like a Sunday night to a Friday night not eating. And if it has that sort of like reset effect on your cravings and your gut and all of that, if that could also help someone who feels like they're craving, whatever it might be,
Yep.
like whatever unhealthy thing. I'm curious if that would have that sort of effect on someone. It's maybe worth exploring. Kristen, what's the name of your book again?
It's be the you that's more you than you've ever been.
Be the you that's more you than you've ever been.
I have to
Is
give credit to my nameless therapist for that, because he was actually the one who came up with it. But
Really? Wow, that's
uh
amazing. That's amazing. Well, I'm definitely going to check it out myself. And of course, anyone listening, I'm encourage them to check it out as well. But Kristen, this has been a really, really awesome conversation. I appreciate you coming on.
I do have some presents I want to give your people, so let me pull
Okay.
out my notes about them. And I
Yeah,
actually have
absolutely.
some presents for you too, which I normally don't
Ooh,
do, and you'll get them after we finish the recording. But
awesome.
okay, so for your peoples, first, I don't know how soon this will be posted, but anybody who buys the book between now and the end of the year, December 31st, you'll be entered to win a limited edition Paramour Paradox T-shirt, which you and I didn't even
Ooh.
really get into that much, but which is one of your gifts. So we'll talk about
Oh,
that.
okay.
I'll be giving away 20 of these shirts, and they are limited edition. They'll never be printed again. You just have to upload your Amazon receipt using the link in the show notes. The
Okay.
other things are totally free. So I'm going to be doing a signed book giveaway. The first 5 listeners from this podcast who join my free community, The Murmuration,
Okay.
and introduce themselves will get a signed copy of the book sent to them at no cost.
Oh,
Just
wow.
mention which podcast brought you in, and I'll reach out for your address. And
Awesome.
then the other offer for free is the Who Am I video series, which I think we talked about a little bit.
Yeah.
And once you get the Who Am I video series, again, free, you can also access the community, and you can also access the mind expansion experiences, the Me Squared sort of meditations that I mentioned about
Wow.
removing your filter. So all those will be free.
That's
And
amazing.
I will get them to you so you can use them.
Well, I really appreciate that so much, Kristen. And yeah, of course, I loved our conversation. So anybody listening, definitely check out the show notes for all the links and all of the instructions and all of that. I'll be sure to include it. Yeah. Well, like I said, Kristen, this is a really great conversation, and I appreciate you coming on the show, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. You too, Giuliano. I wish we had like 4 more hours to talk.
I'll have to have you on again. Thanks for being here. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review or share it with someone who'd appreciate it. For everything I have to offer, visit howtobeaperson.co.